There we go. We're live. Welcome.
All right, awesome. Welcome to onboarding day 2. I'm going to start with just welcoming a new member who didn't get to chance to introduce themselves yesterday. So Sarah, if you want to say hello and say a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. I am Sarah. I'm so sorry for missing yesterday. I'm very excited to be a part of the summer cohort. So by day, I work at City Hall. So right now I'm in the beautiful building of Boston City Hall in the Department of Innovation and Technology. So we are currently preparing for a return back of our workforce. So things have been extra busy lately. So I might be in and out this week, but really excited to be part of this project. Kind of my first experience with it was last semester when I took Quentin's class. So very excited to continue working on it with everybody.
And some of you haven't met Quentin yet. Quentin Stainhouse is another staff member at the lab and the sort of brains, the technical lead behind the assembly line project. So you will meet him likely if he pops on at some point before Friday, but you'll meet him on Friday stand-up meeting as well.
Great, thanks, Sarah. And we also have Michelle who's joined us. And Michelle, if you want to introduce yourself. So Michelle is not a new cohort. She's one of the developers and project managers and has been one of my mentors going through all of this. So Michelle, if you want to say hello.
Hello, I'm Michelle. I am not a lawyer, nor a law student, nor do I know anything about the law, but I am a coder. That's an interesting side of the project to hop in on. Yeah, I'll be around. Happy to answer questions, happy to have a study session or a jam session if people want. And ask me questions about GitHub because you'll have them. So, cool.
Awesome. Yes, Michelle and I love GitHub. It's a place that we've really bonded, which we're going to start to get into tomorrow for those of you who don't exactly know what GitHub is yet. So before we move into everything that we worked on last night, I just want to make sure that everyone is getting notifications in Teams and is comfortable in the channel. You want to throw me just a thumbs up that you're seeing everything. I know it can be challenging to get everything just set just right, but looks like we're good. Okay, awesome. And if you want to reach out privately, let me know. Oh, and sorry.
I was just going to remind people that they should make sure that they're checking that while they're working, they should have Teams up and open there. And that's the main place where we're going to do all our communication. So don't look for emails from any of us. Everything's going to be in Teams.
Yeah, it's where we'll communicate and do lots of sharing of information, documents. If you ask for help, we might reference you to something else in Teams. So it's kind of going to be our hub. And right on time, we have our last cohort who's joined us. Eleni, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Eleni. Do you mind just introducing yourself to the team?
Yeah, sure. I'm Eleni. I'm an incoming 3L at Suffolk University Law School. I worked on this project last summer and I'm excited to be working on it again this summer, but like maybe doing a different kind of like focus in it instead. And yeah, that's like all I can think of right now.
Awesome. Glad to see you, Eleni. All right. So thank you to everyone for those administrative things. And we're ready to dive in to what we worked on yesterday. So how did we feel about labeling our forms? Does anybody want to just volunteer a thought? Have any questions? Did we all get one through? No. Yes. Well, if you didn't get one labeled, there is a pre-labeled one. But I'm looking for a brave volunteer to share their labeled lab lips with the group. And we're going to talk about labeling, why you chose them, and what it looked like when we were done. I have a brave volunteer who wants to screen share. And the best way to do it is to take the PDF that you downloaded from Documate and put it back into Documate, and it will show you the labels again.
And this is the point where I want to remind folks that we are recording this. So if you have stuff on your desktop you do not want to be up for people to see, then you should clean up your desktop. I will also remind people, because there are new people on the call, although we were already recording, so if it's an issue, please let me know on the side channel and I can do what I need to do to scrub it. But if you don't want your full name visible in the YouTube video, you should change your name on your Zoom.
All right. If no one wants to share theirs.
I can share mine.
Oh, right at the bell. Awesome, Ryan. Thank you. So if you would share your screen and let me know if you don't have permission to do that, you should.
I think, is that showing the right screen?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is this
Okay.
like the right thing I'm supposed to have open?
That is exactly what we're looking for. So this is a great place to start because we'll see that, Ryan, we can't see what you actually put in those fields, right? Even though,
Should I mean, I have like a filled in one with like actual words in the boxes. Is that what you want instead?
yes, the one that you labeled.
I think like this
Okay.
one.
So you have a PDF editor.
Yeah.
Cool. So we see it here when you've downloaded it, but we don't see it in Documate. And can we go back to Documate, because I do want to point out to everyone why we don't see it. And then the platform we use is Your Poison. So a lot of the times we'll get forms from the court that actually already have a label, and you'll see the boxes and they might be empty like this, and you could start typing in it. But when you run it through the Weaver, you're going to get an error. So Ryan, if you see where it says field name in the top bar, it says choose option. Yep. So if you go to, yep, original PDF field name, it should show the ones that you put in. Not showing up.
It is not.
Can you scroll up a little
So
bit?
it shows it there on the right-hand column, I think.
Yeah. Why aren't they showing up in the boxes though? Michelle, do you know?
You might have to tap on an individual box to see its value. I haven't used Documate a whole lot. I think it just highlights it in the column view on the right.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be something with the size of the fields, but you can see what they are there when you click.
Yeah.
Right.
Could it be
Okay.
because I didn't like actually fill in the boxes until I ran it through the Weaver, and then I filled them in through the actual interview itself. And so the PDF that I grabbed at the end was like the one that it generated from the interview and not just from like running the PDF through Documate.
Okay.
So I think there's a little miscommunication happened, which is just that the PDF that had the names in it, as it were, that was a filled-in PDF. I don't believe Ryan, were looking at it as an editor of the fields.
Okay.
We weren't able to see the names of the fields when we were looking at that just now.
Okay.
But in Adobe, if you can edit PDFs and to edit their fields, you would be able to see that. I'm not sure what's going on with Documate right now.
Yeah, I don't have Adobe. There's just some like free third-party software like Foxit or something, so I'm not sure if that's
Okay. Let's look at the third-party one because it looked like what everyone else is going to be looking at, but it's just a different platform, and we'll come back to the Documate thing. So looks like we've got label in each field or in each space. And Ryan, do you mind just telling me why you labeled each of those things as you did?
You mean like the term I entered or how I like labeled the field as a variable?
Oh, okay. So this is when you've already gone through the Weaver and produced a document.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we want to go all the way back to the beginning.
Okay.
Because we're going to be talking about when we created these labels, when you made these variables. So do you have that version of the PDF?
I mean, I think actually the only one I have, the version of the PDF with the created, like with the fields and nothing entered in it. And then
Yeah.
this, I for some reason I got like these two, this one with like a bunch of stuff in it, and then this one, which I think is the one that I already had open in Document. And those are the only ones I had left. I might have deleted the original. Like,
I think the one that you have in Document should be good. It seemed to have the field names that you had added.
Sorry, what was that?
The one you had in Document should be good. It seemed to have the field names you had added.
Okay, I think that was
Although that looks like an HTML page as opposed to. So this looks like a local copy of the Document page.
Yeah, I don't know if I still have the original. I might have actually
Just go back to try the Document tab, and that might.
Sorry, what?
Yeah.
Go back to the Document tab.
So if you click, it's okay. Document's a newer tool to me also. So it's good to see how everybody sees, a different view.
I think what David is saying is that this isn't actually Document's page. This is an HTML representation, perhaps.
Yeah, it's a saved version of that.
So if you go to the Document page, there you go,
yeah,
and upload it there. Yep.
Version of the PDF.
Well, then let's just go and let's just throw the blank one in, and we can go from there.
So if we can go through this together if you want to start from the beginning together and be our guinea pig, or I can take over and share my screen. I don't mean to have you do
I'm
everything
fine.
all over again. Okay. So if you want to upload the empty one that we started with yesterday.
Okay.
Great.
Sorry about that.
No apologies necessary. Okay, so we have no fields, and we need to do what we call labeling the PDF. So we're going to add in these boxes for our input to end up. And we do that with our naming convention that we all looked at yesterday. Ryan has already changed it to the original PDF field name. If you start with a PDF that already has something, and you don't change that, the Weaver is going to look for those. And so if we haven't properly edited the original PDF field name, it's going to result, you're going to get an error. It's going to talk about something that you haven't edited, and it's going to get confusing. So original PDF field name is your best friend here. And so we're going to add in our text box. And we'll start with the first one. And so Ryan, what did you name it? Or are you feeling inspired to name it?
I named this one user_astrological_event.
Okay. So go ahead and type that in. And why are we using the underscores in between the words?
I think it was like the snake naming convention or snake hashtag or something like that. But
nice. Yes. Yeah. It's this snake is when it kind of goes like this. I think there's other ones that people might know where it's paired to the underscores. There's snake, and that's how we label everything that is a new type of field. When we say user, that means it's going to call a person. So when this is a thing and not a person, we're not necessarily going to need user here though. So if this was like their name, we would say like user_name, for example. But this isn't referring to anybody. This is just an astrological event. It's not necessarily wrong. It's not, but it's just starting to learn how our doc symbol works. We're not going to use user unless we're talking about an individual. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So would I
So-
just do like astrological underscore event there?
That, yeah. Okay, and then we'll do the next one for place.
And this, could you just put in like just the word place for this? Like, do you need a multi-word variable string, or is it just single?
It's recommended to do multi-word because single words can mean other things. And so, for example, for this one, I did place name. It's going to help you differentiate things to have 2 words.
So I just keep going through the,
Yeah, if we can do all.
and then activity name for this, or
Sure. So, and while you're just filling these in, I'm just going to talk over you a little bit. So this part of the process is nice to do if you have a fresh form, because you start to understand where things in your form are. You're starting to design the form a little bit in your mind and think about what is going where, what we're filling in and what we're doing. And if you have things that are kind of close to each other, like in their name, you want to think about differentiating them well. So activity and adjective are not the same word, but if we had 2 adjectives, you would need to be able to separate them. And there's ways to ask for multiples of things. And all of that is in the documentation. I'm getting ahead of myself, but this is where you start to really lay out your form. And you can always come back and edit these, but the more time that you pay attention here, the better job that the Weaver is going to do for you. Okay, great. So we've got 2 words for all of them. We were using snake case. And so the last thing to do is think about, just check our font and our size. And we've got Helvetica, which is great. We use size 10. And what's nice is that you can change it and apply to all fields with Documate. Great. So we're gonna finish and download. And you now have what we call a labeled PDF. And when we are going to start running this through the Weaver, but this is going to be where all of those outputs are the inputs that we talked about in the YAML yesterday are going to end up. In each of these fields, they're going to correspond to something. And yesterday we did all that by hand, but we're going to use the Weaver to help us do that a little bit faster. So Ryan, thank you so much for being the guinea pig and working through that with us. I'm going to take over and let everyone follow along with the Weaver. But before we get there, does anybody have any questions about using Documate, labeling fields, where the resources are?
Aubrey, what's the benefit in using the naming convention for things like username? What does the Weaver give you for that?
That's a great question. So in following the convention, the Weaver is this incredible tool that knows how we label fields. It's standardized for us to put in those labels. And so that when you run it through the Weaver, it's really smart. And we have this library of questions that are already built for you. So like I was talking about, if we label something username following the convention, you're not going to have to tell the Weaver that this is username. I want to ask this question and design this question. It's going to do it for you without even, you're not even going to have to think about it. And we're going to see that in the labeled fields. One of the reasons that I asked Ryan to name something with the name at the end is because we'll see it wants to ask some of those questions because it thinks that name is for a person or a field that it already has. We're not going to actually use any of them, but it's really smart. It's going to fill in a lot of the work for us without having to think about it. And we're going to look at that now. And also I can see you all. So if you need me to stop and answer any questions, please let me know.
Is there a reason for the size 10 font, or is that just like a clean size?
That is a good question. I know it's our standard. I don't know how we arrived at size 10.
It's a style choice. So we decided to implement the style choices throughout. Although we haven't written up the style guide as nicely as we would like, we try to make sure that our forms have a uniform look and feel, and that's part of that. So it's just a stylistic choice. So it's not
And I
much more than that.
I believe 10 was picked because we didn't want something too small, but some forms have very small fields. And so we want to give, you know, the people using these forms a chance to put some information in there, you know.
Mm-hmm. And just to add one last food for thought, not something that we need to remember, but when we start designing our fields, something that we do think about, and the Weaver, I think the Weaver has a PDF checker that tells us about how many characters can fit in a field, and you can limit fields to a certain amount of characters for those cases where something's really small, but the user's going to be typing a lot. Okay, so this is the Weaver PDF that I'm going to be using. If anyone wants to use the exact same one, it is in the channel, in the assembly line channel, in the Files tab. But otherwise, I encourage you to use the one that you made yourself, so that as we come upon questions, we'll get, you know, different things, or look at different things. But if you would like to follow along and do yours later, that is also an option. So we're actually all going to start at our playground. And I'll give you a second to get to the dev playground. I'll give you a link actually, for those of you who don't have it.
So everyone should have Teams open to grab that as well.
All right, I've threw it in the
I know,
Zoom
I saw
chat.
it there, Zoom. Throw it over on Teams so it's persistent.
I'm going to reply to our thread for today with the link. And the reason that I want to start from the playground is because there is a link to the Weaver here. It's located in other standard work, and you can always find it from other places. You can bookmark it, as I have done, but it's always going to be in your dev playground if you lose it. So if you drop down your name in the top right corner, you're going to see Weaver right there, and you can click on it. It's going to open in the same tab. I've opened it in a new tab. I'll just give everyone 10 seconds. Stop me if we are not there. Cool. All right, and so when you open it, this is brand new instructions that were just launched. So if you want to take more time to go through them, it gives you a great description of what's going on, how it does it, and more steps. But we're going to do a little bit of that together. So here's where we're going to upload our form. Sorry, 1 second. And you're going to upload the one that's labeled, that has the fill-ins that we just did from Document Together. And what you should get is 7 different variables, or excuse me, the fields here, because we had 7 places that we labeled, and you should see their name. And this is what I was talking about, where it'll tell you about how many characters could fit in the space. When you go back to label, or excuse me, to limit things, it does a nice estimate for you. And you can always come back in for that. And these are all the ways that I labeled my fields. And we see that we have 3 with question marks. And that indicates that it's a question that they think could be handled by the question library. So it's what we were saying about the naming convention. That's really helpful if you follow it early, because it's going to try to handle those questions and build it for you without having to do the work ourselves. And so, the reason that I'm getting it for these is because I called it name. So it thinks that place is a like user. You can instead of user, you can do other things like homeowner name or other things. Name is what's calling that for these 3, but it's not actually a person. So I'm going to tell it, yes, I see all of the fields above. I've got all 7. Are there any unexpected fields? No, I'm good to go. And are all the fields you expected to be reserved bolded? I'll say yes, because I expected none to be bolded. And if I say no, I'm not going to move forward.
And what would happen if you had chosen different selections on those?
So I'll go back. If I say no here, it's going to give me the some of the documentation on how to label things properly and link us back to some of our resources if I'm not seeing everything that I want. If there's an unexpected field, it's going to help give me a tool to remove a field and the documentation there. And if all the fields, excuse me, are not bolded, it's going to give us the labeling documentation. So it's really helpful. It's going to guide, this is going to guide us every step of the way through. And if we start to throw an error, it's going to really try to help us and point us in the right direction. And if you still don't have your answer, you can always reach out for help on why it's not working in the Weaver. And so are all the checkboxes checked? I'm going to say yes, because we didn't use checkboxes yet. Is the text unusual size? Well, let's look. Everything looks the same size. So I'm going to say no, it is not unusually sized. And are all the signature fields within the above image? I'm going to say yes, we didn't add a signature field. This is a much simpler one, but there is a way to add a signature field in Documate at the top bar. So COEC stop. If your job is only to label the form, you would just share the PDF. That means it's good to go at this point. But our job is to push this all the way through. So we're going to continue and build our interview. And this is when the magic really starts to happen. Okay, so now what we're doing is really setting it up. And it wants to know some information about this interview because it's going to build some things behind the scenes based on what we tell it. So this is not going to apply to our form, but I want to show you what happens. So is this form court related? We are not. But if it is, it asks us all this information. And this is the point where it's also like, oh, I am doing legal work. You're not only doing technical work, you are doing legal work, and you're going to do legal research and need to know a lot of the legal information about your forms. And that's why this is a project run out of a law school. So what kind of form is it? We need to know that information coming in. We need to know if it is starting a new court case or if it's an appeals case, because what the Weaver is going to do is take the answer to these questions and it's going to handle them differently and how it helps you build your interview. So just for an example, the appeals court handles where they want people's email addresses differently. It goes on your physical address page rather than with your contact information, because the appeals court just considers that service. So it goes in a different place. And that's why we have students who have interest in the law building a lot of this stuff, because you have to know the legal work behind these forms. Same thing for knowing what courts it goes to. If we're doing a housing form, it's not going to go to the juvenile court. And this is going to help you doing this properly, and knowing this information about your form sets you up for not having to do this stuff behind the scenes. You can change it if you learn new information working with a subject matter expert. You can always add in another court, but it's just going to do that setup for you and bring a lot of things in without you having to do that labor. Again, categories is going to help us point you to the right place, but we're just doing an example, so we're not going to do that today. And what kind of form is this? It is other. It is not an administrative form or like a letter. Those would also pull in other information for you to not have to build out on your own. So unique label for this interview. What this is going to be is the name of our YAML like we did yesterday. So everyone here can put something. You can do fun, but usually you would do it somewhat related to what the core form is, so that you know where you're working, looking at your YAML file. But you can do lab libs and maybe our names, so that they are all different. And you can also change the name of your YAML later, though there's really not reason to. It is okay if it's not perfect, and you call it some abbreviation or something that only you know. And here you would also put a link to the original form, because it'll pop that in for you in a nice place for the user to see. We don't have one, but as you can see, this is the first form that I ever did here, Marriage Without Delay. It had 6 fields and it took me the entire summer. So that was mine, but we don't have one, so we're not going to put one in there. Okay. Are we doing okay? Thanks for the thumbs up. So next, we're going to talk about title, short title, and what to show your users. So I actually have where that shows up. So this is going to be our title. Then we don't see our short title, and we have the information to show our users. So we can go and fill that in together. You can call it whatever you want. You can add it your name. I leave my short title because I don't use it. Usually we'd provide some information about what the form does, what it accomplishes, who should be using it, and a few resources up front just to set expectations before the user moves in. And again, you can change that. Here's our action title. So that's actually before the one we just saw, but you put an action right there. We don't say please, we say do this, or we use commands to just help people guide. So rather than get a liblabs labeled, we can do a fun activity. And again, that's the first page that they see before we've even moved into anything. Okay. The next thing the Weaver's going to do is find our people. And remember when those 3 fields had a name under, and they had the question mark. We're seeing those repeated here, and that's because it thinks that they are people, because I told it had a name. But none of these actually represent people. If I said that activity represented people, it would have some, the Weaver would add questions to find information about those people, and you will get to experiment with that, but we're going to say none. And here we don't have a user. I'm not trying to collect any information about the user. But if you say that the user is always the plaintiff or always the defendant or could be either, it's going to ask different questions and build those into your interview for you. That's again why we have students doing research and development. You guys are a perfect pair for this tool. Okay, and the Weaver does assume that it is because we are building for people. So usually there is at least one person here. It's not meant to do lab libs, though you can use it for many different things. And so how many people here? We're going to say exactly one. By saying exactly one, we're going to get asked less questions. It's not going to try to collect a bunch of different people. If you say at least one, it's going to give you the opportunity to add more people or things. For our purposes, we're going to do exactly one. We're going to get less built-in questions. And oh, sorry, I want to go back. Also, I just want to point out that there's all these, what is this about, that give you a little bit more technical and beautifully said explanations on some of these things as we start to dive in with our own forms. It's kind of a built knowledge, and I don't want to overwhelm too much. I want to point out things that we're thinking about. Oops. But there are explanations, and they are helpful in when you go to design. So here we would add in our jurisdictions, and we're doing none for both. This is a tool that is available to outside projects. Am I correct, Michelle, David? Yeah.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so they could put in their own information for those. Okay, here's the fun part. Here's where you're going to get to do your own lab libs. And the whole thing's been fun, but this is where you start to get to do your own twist on this. So we see below all of those field names that we talked about, and it's separated them, you can tell by our snake case. It's very smart. And it wants to know what's the on-screen prompt and what the field type is. So if we remember back to yesterday, this on-screen prompt is going to be what we called full name. And the field type is going to be the part where we put the place for our person to put their full name. So it's what's right next to that fill in. So really this is field type, and this is the, this is the prompt, and this is the full name. And for all of them, they're text. This is actually a text one. And we want to do text for all of them. Sorry, give me one sec. Okay. So what should the title of the screen be? So this is going to come up and it's going to give us all of our field names. And you're going to want to fill this out. And what it's going to do is look like this. This is what we are designing for each of them. And what you're going to want to do is create the title, which goes here. What goes under, which is what we called our sub-question here. And then what field is going to answer. So if we want to build what I just built, we're going to do the prompt in our title, which is what we know is the question. And build that sub-question if you want. Example, black hole. And because it's going with astrological event, you'll go continue. And so you're going to do that for each of them. So title is going to be the question. What goes next is the place name, or excuse me, is the sub-question, and then what variable that question pairs with. So I'm going to zoom through this part to try to get us to a good stopping place.
And you can even put multiple questions per page if you want.
Yes. So give us an activity. You're going to go through all of this.
I'm sorry, I got drawn off for a second. Did you talk about the make this only an informational screen?
No. So I will make this a purely informational screen. See how it hides all of our fields? It's because we want to have a place to talk about something, tell the user something, but be able to continue through. And you can say demo only. This interview is for fun. Do not use for mass access. And we've got no variables. And it's going to let us continue through the interview. Remember yesterday we had one that just kind of stopped us. An informational only screen, creating that now is going to let us continue the rest of the interview. Okay. And then we get to this screen and you can actually reorder. So if I wanted to put my demo only warning up top, which it would be more appropriate, you can do that. You go to check, you'll go to continue. And we're supposed to be getting to our, yeah, Ryan.
I'm just curious, like, what's the purpose of that override logic flow with continue button thing at the bottom?
Yeah, so do you remember yesterday when we just created a field that it just showed us text, but then we were stuck. We couldn't go and see the rest of. So it's creating, it's working in the order block, which we're also going to do more work with yesterday, but it's giving it a variable to move through rather than just getting you stuck. But it's doing that behind the scenes. You're not seeing that happen. And by telling it that we want an informational screen there, it's going to create that for you so that you don't just see text. Yeah, Michelle.
If you want a little bit of context, when you have questions on the screen and it's not just informational, there are sometimes reasons that you don't want to count on those questions and those variables to be the ones to trigger the screen. You don't have to get into now, right now, just ignore it and do what you do. And like, as you gain experience, we can get more into it, but there are reasons to take the questions out of the flow that you're triggering.
Thank you.
Connor, did you have a question? Or are you just stretching? Okay. All right, so this screen is a good place that we're gonna pause, but what we have is we've completed the Weaver and we're gonna come back, but what you've done is behind the scenes, got a package. And that's very exciting, but I'm gonna create some suspense in what is a package because of time constraints, we're gonna totally switch gears to something else so that we can do it before.
Don't close that tab.
No, yeah, don't even move. All right, so we're gonna come back to this, I promise, but we're going to talk about Trello and totally switch gears. And you should all have access to these boards. I double checked you have access, whether you know where it is or not. But Trello is how we keep track of things, and we're going to do a more detailed conversation about it. But first, we're going to use Trello to do some assignments and have a little fun while everybody is here together. So this is our thoughts around how we did assignments was thinking about how many hours people had to dedicate to the project each week so that you would be balanced in your teams. We thought about people who are newer and going to be building the experience and tools together, and some of you have experience and can work independently and be great sources of help for those who reach out. Also, sorry, I keep going in and out. I look like I'm giving an anonymous interview. So that was, everyone's going to be starting at different stages. We have some really fresh, untouched forms, some forms that are still in that first stage and might need to be reworked. We've got forms that need to be pushed across the line, and we've got some that are just almost done and need just final touches. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is use Trello to dish out assignments. And I am going to do a quick demo. We'll come back to it for ones that are brand spanking new. So first, we're going to create a new form from here. And it is called late docketing statement. It is in appeals court. That is not nice. It is an appeals form.
You can get rid of the parenthetical for template on there too.
Thank you. Please open. There we go. And I'm going to add 2 lucky members. So first, assigned to this appeals form is Regis. Woo! The second person assigned to this form, we are having technical issues with their Trello, but I know that they're on there, and that is Catherine. So you two are going to be working together on this late docketing statement. We're going to come back to this. I'm going to give you all the deets, but congratulations, you two are a team.
And just to be clear, this is, this is not like the permanent team for all summer. This is to get us going, and it was matched based upon your hours, so that hopefully you'll be able to find times to work together.
Yes. And it's going to be a great way to get to know each other. And my experience last summer was there's lots of cross-team collaboration. It's not like not that your partners are not amazing, awesome people, but you're not going to be siloed together either. We're really cross-collab cohort. Okay. The next team is also a new form, but it's one that has been touched a little bit, could use a little reworking. Your first part is going to be to assess that together. So without further ado, we have Shauna. Ooh. And Kajal.
And I will scrub the video to avoid the full name.
Thank you. So congratulations. This is going to be fun, and we're going to talk about your Trello card later, but it was started, but it's very, very beginning, and you have the autonomy to restart it. Next one is also needs a new card. And it is the change name petition. It is juvenile. Because we have a change name petition for adults, and the juvenile is going to be different. And we're going to start that one. And so this one is going to be Ryan. Woo! And Connor. Yay! Awesome. So those are our brand new forms that are going to be started by those teams. And next, we're going to talk about those who are in process. So
this division was made upon previous experience with the project or not. So all new folks should be on a team with someone else so you can use each other. And folks who have had prior experience are going to do some individual work.
So I just want to introduce Sarah's form that she's been working on. Request to choose someone to be my authorized representative. It looked great. I did look at pull a lot of these, and you're gonna just keep working on it, push that over the line. Looks fantastic. So woo for Sarah. Don't want to leave you out of my woos. Next is looking for the pre-trial memo housing. Here it is. So this is a form that is high priority and has been worked on and just really needs to be pushed over the line. And so this one is going to Joelle, yay, woo. And Joelle, you also have some forms that look fantastic that looked ready for testing. So we are adding this on top of your 3 forms that you already had. So you are going to have your hands full, but hopefully that is exciting to get to finalize a bunch of forms and hopefully see some stuff go live. Woo, yay. Okay. And last but not least is going to be in our testing group is going to be Eleni. Eleni, you asked and you shall receive. We have testing galore for you, and we can talk about where we're going to start. We have 2 that are in review. We need to retest and review that are high priority. So these are probably going to be your starting place. But you, by the end of the summer, you're going to be testing SME. And so I'm going to assign you to these 2. Eleni is going to be our master tester.
Aubrey, what's a SME?
A SME is a subject matter expert. So it's when you know your stuff, and we have SMEs for legal work, we have SMEs for development work, we have SMEs for a great casual Friday. They're all around. So you too can become a subject matter expert this summer. And that is our exciting assignment time. I don't know if we want to have any closing thoughts on assignments before anyone has to jump.
I'll just say a few words. Unfortunately, I have a meeting that I've got to run to at 1. You now all have these assignments. The way you should think about them is they're now something that you can access as work when you have the capacity. So we're going to finish out this week doing the exercises that we're doing. Some of you are only doing, like a short, a couple hours a day. If that's the case, you're probably, your plate's full with the stuff we're doing for onboarding. Some of you have much more time. If that's the case, then you can start to access and start working on this work. So think about it as something to get to when you have the be Some of you might be able to start this week. Some of you might not actually start this week because of your time. Hopefully you and your partner are on sort of similar time frames, and you can work that out with each other. So you will need to talk to each other. You'll need to figure out what you want to do, how you want to attack it. And then Aubrey, I think, is going to give you some advice about evaluating where you're at if it's not an entirely new form. And I will linger here for a couple minutes until I have to jump off. But I think you're all in a great spot and some other stuff just to get your hands dirty and start running. The thing you might want to keep in mind is on Friday, our meeting for this will be a normal stand-up meeting. So we'll be meeting the rest of the team. And that will be an opportunity for you to talk about what you're working on and if you have any blockers, like something that's standing in your way. So if you have time, it might be nice to get a little started so that you can have something to talk about at the stand-up, but that's by no means like a requirement. And actually, in fact, your discussion at the stand-up should probably be shorter than the amount of time I've spoken. So it doesn't have to be, obviously longer if you need to be, but there we go. Aubrey.
Awesome. Yes. So on Friday, we will do stand up and you'll be introduced to the whole team all together, and we'll call on you just by your team, and we'll say what form you're assigned to, etc. And that's how things will go on Tuesdays and Fridays. So that'll be so exciting to really feel like you've got the thing. Okay, so now to pause and go back again. Thank you for doing a quick pivot. If we've all still got our tab up, want to return to the Weaver. Okay, so like we said, we have what we call a package, and it is exactly that. It's a bunch of things that we want put together. So if we download our package, you're going to get a zip. And I'm going to show. So if when you open the zip, you got all those files like Ryan showed us before, but you should also get a zip, and that's what we're going to want. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the playground, and you're actually going to use a package for the first time.
Sorry, I just wanted to I'm going to have to, unfortunately, I think the recording is going to stop. So Aubrey, if you can do a local recording,
Yep.
and then you can get that to me, and then I'll stitch them together.
Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, I was waiting for it to stop. I'll come back to it. So from our playground, we're going, oh, did he go? Okay, sorry. So from our playground, we're gonna get our package and we're gonna get to see what we just made. So if everyone does the drop down, you should see manage package. I have too many packages. You can't see my button. Manage projects, and you're gonna create a new project. Then you're gonna do add a new project. And what this is going to create a new space for your package. So I'm going to call mine Weaver Demo Trial, because I'm pretty sure I have one called Weaver Demo. It should show up in your list. You're going to tap on it, and you're going to see your test YAML and not much else going on. This top bar, we're going to tap Folders and Packages. Then we're going to tap Upload, because we have a local file that we want to bring into DocAssemble, and it's our whole package. And I'm going to show you what's in the package. I swear I'm not just using it as an elusive term. And I'm going to open up that zip file that I just downloaded. It's going to take a second. Then you should get this green bar at the top. The package was unpacked into the playground. And what we see is we see the package name, our license, some of my information, yada, yada, a lot of things that you will honestly never touch if I'm from this point. But then we see some of the dependencies, so docassemble.assembly line is what I was talking about when I said there's this library. This depends on that library, and it's a dependency. We see interview files. So we have the YAML that we created and named. If you can have more than one, but it's got the YAML file attached. And then we see the template files. So here's my PDF that we uploaded. So it's brought all those things into one package, and it's placed them in the right place for us. We didn't have to do the manual work of uploading the PDF. We didn't have to create the YAML from scratch and all those things. It's all in one package. So if we save it and return to our playground, save is all the way at the bottom. And I hope you guys are doing this because it's really fun to see what you made. We've got the YAML here, and you've got a boatload of code. It is truly magic. It's really a lot of hard work and skill from our developers, but it's utter magic. It is so cool. And so when you hit save and run, like we did yesterday, you get an interview. Look at it. Is everybody getting an interview? Does it feel really cool? I think it's awesome. And what this is a starter place. So you don't have to learn how to code from scratch like we were yesterday. Not everything is a hello world exercise. You kind of have a place to get comfortable, start to figure out where things are coming from. Just one thing that will be helpful is the source button up here. And what it does is when you click source, it's going to tell us the source code for that question. So why is this happening? And then you can go and find that in your playground when you want to edit it. But you'll be able to go all the way through and fill out our PDF. You can tell that I've done this like 12 times. So here is where we remember how I told it has one person. Even though I don't have a field for an address, it thinks people should have an address. So I'm going to put, that's where Suffolk is located, that address. And it wants a name. Everybody has a name and everybody has an address. We are building for people. LabLib's not necessarily building for people, but it's always going to expect those. And you're going to get questions from that document library that you didn't want, and you can overwrite them. And you can add ones in that you didn't get and you want to use. It's just a starting place. So is there someone on the other side of the dispute? Also not one I want. You could take them out, you can add them in. Come on. So. Does everybody's work? Is anybody running through theirs? Did anybody get a resulting PDF? Look at it, it's filled in. Don't forget to wear your toe ring and sunscreen this summer. So I hope, does anybody have any questions, any thoughts? Do we feel like we understand what a package is? Kind of. It's okay, you don't have to understand what it fully is, but the concept of that, all of these pieces talk to each other. Your YAML talks to your PDF, and it all needs to be contained here together. All right, I'm going to take your silence as an enthusiastic heck yeah. And we're going to move on. Thanks, guys. Okay, so that's the Weaver. It's really cool. I'm going to stop sharing just for a second. I think it's the coolest thing on earth. And tomorrow, what we're going to work on is sharing packages, because this is going to be how you work with your partners. So you can both be working on code that comes from the same package, and you want to be able to talk to one another. So that's what we're going to do with GitHub tomorrow, just as a little peek at that. You're going to connect GitHub to your DocAssemble account, and we're going to watch some videos, and then together we're going to practice pulling in a package from GitHub instead of like a local file. You're going to pull it from GitHub, which is the place that we store all of these packages and all of this information so that it can be open source and shared. So we're going to pull it in, we're going to all edit it, and we're going to push it back into GitHub and try to merge it all together so that if all 11 of us were working on the same thing, what does it look like when we've got a lot of hands touching the same stuff? And it's going to be probably messy, and it's going to be fun, and you're going to love GitHub by the end of it. It was my personal favorite thing last summer. And I don't know what that says about me, but I thought it was the coolest thing. So Any questions? You can let me know on the side. All right. So we're going to go back to Trello now. And so you guys have watched the videos on Trello, and we talked about 3 of them. We talked about pre-processing, development, and testing. Excuse me. But before we go back to your activities, I actually want to talk about one that hasn't been mentioned to everybody because it's brand new, and it's called Grab Bag. So you all have assignments that are based on the amount of time you have dedicated, and some of you have a lot more time this summer, some of you fewer hours, and you might just find that in your time working you have a little extra time, and so that's what the grab bag is meant to do. It's just to fill extra time as you're going forward. You can work on it while you're working on your main assignments, or if you're kind of in between and we haven't given you a next assignment. It's just so that you're not bored, and what it is bunch of projects of different sizes. So for example, we have the attribution project, which we need somebody to one time do a large project to give all of our developers credit. We want to build a page that says this person and this person worked on this form, and we're actually going to make that one of those questions that's integrated into, I think, probably the wizard. It's in every interview, and so that you get credit, and it will be, it'll have a start and it'll have a finish. You'll have guidance from different people, and those are that's like one kind of example. There's another that would be continuous grab bag, is a language audit. So we want to ask somebody to go in and do plain language reviews of some of the forms. And I know you don't really know what plain language is yet, but we have a style guide for how we ask them the questions. So for example, we don't say please. Going through some of the interviews and making sure that we're asking things in the most direct way, pulling out please where appropriate, making sure we're using punctuation the same, things like that, and maybe doing a few forms. But that's a project that's never going to go away. It's just something that we need to continuously do and would be a good project. So this is going to be a place that you can come and see what's there, or you can come to me or any of the leadership team, like Michelle, David, Quentin, and say, I need something to do, and we'll get together and be like, okay, what is top of the list right now? And just give you an extra activity. And then all of the resources to do it are going to be on this Trello board. So after today, I'm going to add everyone to this Trello board, because I've been hiding it because I just thought it would cause confusion, because there's not a peep about it in the trainings we did. So surprise, there's another one. I know you're happy. Okay, so going back to the forms that we signed out, very exciting. I'm going to use the late docketing statement as an example. So when you create a new card, you get a lot of checklists. I know the video talked about checklists, and they now all automatically add. I know for some of you, you were manually adding them before, and your cards have been grandfathered in, and you will continue to manually manage these checklists. But what the checklists do, and that's like start here, is make sure you always know what step you're supposed to be doing, and it has all of the resources to do. And Michelle, did you make these checklists?
We as a team made these checklists
Okay.
over a long period of time, though I did put in a chunk just before the boot camp to kind of bring things up to date with our current practices and add stuff, as many resources as I could stand in there. So, still room for improvement for all this stuff, looking for feedback and thoughts on how to, but you've got a lot to go on, I hope.
Yeah, there's a lot of information here. It is very, very detailed, down to where to type things, how to format things. And it's a great place to, if you're stuck or don't know what you're supposed to be doing, look at your checklists. And so for those of you who are kind of picking up a form in the middle, we can take a little time to go through it together to help you get comfortable and how to use these. But you just start from the top and you start reading. So tap your spacebar and add yourself as a member. I did do that for you, Regis. Catherine, we will get you added. You could try. So maybe I'll leave it unchecked. Edit card description and insert the link. So we don't have a link for the appeals forms. What we do have, they're instructions from the court. And so I'll upload those for you so you have them and you can get going. If my Finder chooses to show itself, there we go. So there is no link for you. So we're going to check it off. Download the form with that link also doesn't really apply. But so you go through and you just do exactly what it says. And if you have a question about what it says, let us know. But there's lots of resources as we get further down. It'll link you to the wizard. It'll tell you when to put it through the wizard. It'll tell you when to attach things to GitHub. And it's going to guide you through the whole process. And here's where we're going to put a lot of information so everybody can find your stuff. If you're out sick, if you're on vacation, if we don't finish the form by the end of summer, it's all going to take place in Trello. And I really recommend trying to keep it up to date. It's a good way to make sure you're communicating with your partner, every time you guys get together or in preparation for every stand-up, maybe just filling it out. It'll make your life and the team's life we'll be able to communicate better and hopefully it'll make your life easier. When we have one for each stage. So once your card is finished here, you can move them like so. It will go to development, but it'll carry those same checklists. So you're just going to keep working down the checklists for those new cards. For people who had cards previous to the boot camp, you do have the old checklists. You've been grandfathered in, and we can talk about if you wanted to help talking about it, but it's really your choice if you want to bring in the new checklist that's got everything and just restart, or if you want to keep adding the individual checklists that are there. And that is really it for Trello. What I am going to do on Monday is have kind of just open office hours where I'm going to sit on a link, and if anybody has questions about setting up their Trello, where they're at, we can do it together with your teammate. Or that can, that's a great starting place for you and your teammate, is trying to figure out where you're at with Trello, getting the resources there, and figuring out how you feel comfortable reaching out. Trello is going to be your North Star, you could say. Any questions about Trello? Cool. So that is really it for today. We've got about 15 more minutes left in our scheduled time, so I just want to talk about what's coming up for tomorrow. What we're going to do is, like I said, we're going to talk about GitHub tomorrow. It's all GitHub day, and you're going to have the big thing that's going to be due tomorrow is connecting GitHub to DocAssemble. I'm going to put the written instructions in the channel. There's a video that you can follow along if that is your poison, and how to do it. And then there's also an optional in-depth look at GitHub and how to use it, what it does. It's, you can follow along with it. And tomorrow together, what we're going to do, as I said, is pull GitHub, send things back to GitHub, and put all of our work together. So it could be GitHub centric. And we're also going to talk about testing tomorrow, which I'm not going to get into now. We're going to start talking about it, and you'll have homework with that. And I'm going to stay on now for anybody who wants to. You can turn your camera off and we can sit quietly, but try setting up GitHub just because people often have questions. So I'm going to stay on until 2 o'clock for anybody who wants to do that somewhat together, walk through it, ask questions, because we would typically, or we'd be here at least for the next 15, but I'll stay for the next 45 if anybody wants to. I also know that it's been a long lunch hour, and so I will not take offense if you hop off. But other than that, that was it today. I talked a lot. Does anybody have thoughts or feelings? Or does everybody just want to go? Fair enough. All right.
It's been
Well,
awesome.
I'll put all the links in shortly. And if anyone stays on, I'm going to stop recording and take that as a sign that you want to do it together. So look out for something in the channel, reach out if you can't find anything, but great job.
And it's still live on YouTube, it says. So I'm
Yes.
not sure. It might, even if you stop recording, it might still be recording. I have no idea what it's up to now.
I'm going to stop recording.